So, in this video, we will have a look at 10 insane controversial things from The Boys comics that fortunately we do not get to see in The Boys show. So, let's start with some things that's somewhat less controversial. We will start with Starlight's origins. In the comics, Annie January's origin is completely different from the show and is extremely tragic. As a child, she accidentally blinds both her parents, but luckily, her good nature steered her in a good direction in life despite this traumatic experience. In the show, Starlight is coerced by her mother into doing superhero-themed beauty pageants, which she detests. Her mother's attempts to groom her into the best superhero make for a more interesting subplot to the show that's able to add drama to Annie's adult life, as she tackles how to forgive and move forward with the woman that exploited her youth. Had the show gone with the comic's backstory, that extra layer and edge to Starlight's personality wouldn't be there. After Starlight, we have Black Noir and his true identity. As one of the coolest mute comic characters, Black Noir has built so much intrigue around him due to his mysterious nature. Season 3 of The Boys really expanded on the character, giving him an entire backstory and revealing his real name, which was Irving. And I'm sure most of you didn't remember his actual name, even after it was revealed. However, in the comics, he is instead an exact genetic replica of Homelander, who is created by Vought as a failsafe to stop Homelander if he oversteps his boundaries. In the comic adaptation, he possesses the same abilities as his clone, but conceals them to avoid revealing the truth. This revelation makes Homelander seem less evil, and it feels like Black Noir was used more as a shock factor rather than contributing in an engaging storytelling. But it doesn't mean that him being a clone of Homelander was not good. He definitely shocked the fans when his true identity was revealed. Next, we have the infamous plane scene that took place on 9/11. The plane scene from episode 4 of the first season of The Boys really showed audiences what kind of evil things Homelander is capable of. The comic takes things even further with the exact scene happening in the comics, but instead on 9/11. The moment in the comic is even darker as it features the Seven's previous speedster, Mr. Marathon, being decapitated during the crash. In comics, Homelander leaves everyone to die with the plane crashing into the Brooklyn Bridge. But the show did a good job at making the scene simpler and less edgy, as having it occur on 9/11 would be in really poor taste and doesn't actually add anything of value to the plot or Homelander and Maeve's characterization. After this, we have the Deep's character from the comics. While the Deep is one of the most memed characters from The Boys, his comic counterpart is very different. Usually the butt end of jokes, the Deep doesn't like his other teammates on the Seven and isn't working to gain Homelander's approval. In addition to having a very different personality, the comic version is also depicted as being of African descent. By the end of the comic's run, he and Starlight are the only surviving members of the Seven. While the show portrays the Deep as a pretty horrible person, the Deep from the comics is one of the more mature members of the Seven with less of a charged personality. It was honestly for the best that he was given more of a character in the television adaptation, as his character has become a fan-favorite person that viewers love to hate. After him, we have Starlight's controversial outfit that was changed for the show. Although Starlight did get a mandatory outfit change early on in season 1, it is nowhere near as revealing as the comic was. In the comic, she is given an outfit that would make the show's content ratings even more strict if they had gone on this route. While the comic introduced really interesting characters, it sometimes leaned too close to sexism and other nasty themes just for the sake of being edgy. While it claims to do so in the name of satire, it's best that Starlight was given something more reasonable and that rejecting her more revealing costume was a nice moment of character growth. Next, we have Stormfront, who was Homelander's father in the comics. So, in addition to being gender swapped in the TV show, Stormfront is actually Homelander's father in the comics. Homelander was created by using Stormfront's DNA, similar to how Soldier Boy's DNA was used to make Homelander in the show. While Stormfront was a villain only in the second season of the show, he sticks around for much longer in the comics. Stormfront in the show is revealed to be a terrible racist, but that status is made even more explicit in the comics. However, he ultimately meets a painful death being beaten by Butcher, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Love Sausage. It was for the best that the series slightly changed the character. Even in the show, she was still a detestable person, but there was more of a fleshed-out villain, and her defeat played a major role on furthering Maeve, Starlight, and Ryan's development. Next, we have Lamplighter. So Lamplighter emerged as one of the standout characters from the second season. Many assumed he would redeem himself and potentially lead a good life, but he ultimately chooses to end his life in a ball of flames. However, in the comics, he was resurrected as a mindless zombie by Vought for no purpose other than eternal punishment. Anything is possible, but the show has shown no signs of revisiting Lamplighter. Bringing him back as a shell of his former self wouldn't add to the narrative the show has been building, and it would detract from the shock of his untimely death. Next, we have the coward Soldier Boy. While the Boys TV series has made it clear that there is only one Soldier Boy, in the comics, there were actually three. In comics, the public is led to believe that Soldier Boy is the same one from World War II. And the comic counterpart is far from the confident, battle-ready Soldier Boy on TV. Soldier Boy is often taken advantage of by other heroes, mainly Homelander, who sexually assaults him as an application to the boys, which he still fails. Instead of embodying toxic masculinity as he does in the show, comic Soldier Boy is a coward that buckles anytime anything gets tough. So, changing him for the TV series worked in everyone's favor as he became a menacing villain that could even rival Homelander. And even though he's just as morally corrupt like Homelander, fans were rooting for him to finally defeat the extremely unlikable Homelander. Next, we have Black Noir as the big bad final villain. So after being criminally underused in the first two seasons, Black Noir deserved more screen time in The Boys before his demise in the season 3 finale. While the comic version of Black Noir is actually a clone of Homelander, he is also the real culprit behind the sexual assault and murder of Becca Butcher, who didn't live on to have a child in the comics. In the comics, Black Noir had also framed Homelander for numerous crimes, and interestingly, Black Noir is the one that kills Homelander shortly after excitingly revealing his true nature to him and Butcher. And later, he finally meets his end at the hands of Billy Butcher. But if the show had done this, it would have rendered Butcher and Homelander's rivalry useless. So if Homelander is killed, Billy Butcher has to be the one to do it. Then, after this, we have Mother's Milk with superpowers. Mother's Milk's entire backstory and character are completely changed in the television adaptation. In the comics, his name isn't even Marvin Milk, but rather Baron Wallace. Unlike the character's distaste for soups in the show, the comic version is, in fact, a soup himself. Baron Wallace receives the nickname Mother's Milk because he drinks breast milk that is laced with compound V, giving him additional strength, regenerative healing, and immunity to most poisons. It's a major departure from the show, and it wouldn't work well considering the boys are meant to hate soups. So it was for the best that the writing team at Amazon chose to create their own background for MM, and fans actually appreciated and loved it. Now, this does not mean that Mother's Milk will not get superpowers in The Boys show. I'm sure we might get to see Mother's Milk doing some serious damage in the upcoming seasons of The Boys. Because even Huey has superpowers, so it's possible that Mother's Milk might take some doses of Compound V that will give him some powers for a limited time. So yeah, that's all for this video, and thanks for watching.